Damn it.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Charles.
Happy New Year and Merry Christmas.
Same to you.
Oh, goodness.
How's it feel, Michelle?
Well, yeah, I'm in Florida right now. Zooming in my last meeting from Florida. It's good. I mean, I'm going to miss y'all
I'll miss you.
for sure.
We will definitely miss you. Are you with your parents? Are your parents there?
No, just Julie and Kate. My parents are still at home and probably won't get here hopefully maybe February. But my dad gets
Everybody getting well?
discharged. He's coming home Tuesday from the nursing home, and the fun really begins then.
Thank you
Good.
for-
So he's getting his strength back then?
Good evening. all.
Slowly, still have some rehab. Hi.
I had on my day minder that this was my last meeting. So much for that.
Wishful thinking.
I put it on there months ago, like probably this time last year.
Welcome to COVID
Oh, you
time.
did? When did you write that, Marilyn?
Probably as soon as I got the day minder for 2020. So it's been there a while.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the appointed hour of 8 o'clock. Ms. Alexander, I hope that is Diet Coke in your bottle. I understand if it's something stronger in preparation for 2021.
No, that's
like-
all I have.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. And first item of business, if we could all, if you could stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. And it gets old, but look forward to when we can do that in the same room together and without fear of spreading germs and viruses. Next item on the agenda is consideration of agenda. Is there anything anybody else had, or we'll note that we do have a closed session planned. Purpose of discussing the disposition of real estate for a public purpose. And if there are no objections, we'll accept the agenda as presented. Hearing none, I would like to take a moment for personal privilege and have a couple of items. Number one, I'd like to recognize and thank Main Street Lexington for their efforts to make downtown a destination. The reverse parade in the pouring rain went off really well, with one exception. One of the officers was struck by a vehicle, but was not injured seriously. But a parade will distract drivers, so we have to remember that for future reverse parades or circumstances. But really thankful for the good work and efforts that Main Street Lexington and Rebecca Logan and her team have embarked upon in support of CARES Act funding and everything else. So wanted to recognize them. Secondly, wanted to recognize the Public Works team and Jeff Martone. Had several people stop me, and you may have as well, or contact saying how thankful they were that the streets were clean and everything was safe, and the snowstorm wasn't as significant as we anticipated, but the ice is always tough to contend with. But Public Works did a great job with the first snow of the season. And then lastly, having to deal with everything from high schools to chickens to cemeteries and Department of Social Services. Wanted to recognize Michelle on her final meeting. And at the end of the meeting, if she wanted to make any closing comments, or members of council would like to offer their good wishes, would like to do so. But for the public and for the record, Michelle, thank you for your term on City Council and the good work and contributions that you've made. The City of Lexington and your peers are indebted to you, and greatly appreciate it. Next item is consideration of minutes. They were included in your packet. Were there any details or concerns with the minutes? Hearing none, unless there's an objection, we'll accept those as presented, approve those as presented, and move right into citizens' remarks and comments. Janie, do we have anybody that was joining us this evening that wanted to speak to council? Perhaps Jenny knocked out her internet again. I'm not sure. When I spoke with Janie earlier, we did not have anybody who wanted to speak, but we do welcome folks to join us by Zoom if they want to speak or have something on their mind they want to share with council, and welcome folks anytime. But not hearing or aware of anyone that wanted to speak to council tonight. We'll go next to the consent agenda, and I'd ask for council's consideration.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
David with the motion, Marilyn with the second. Roll call vote. Mr. Smith. Is Mr. Smith here?
No.
Mr. Smith is not here. Was not aware. Okay. Mr. Ayers.
Aye.
Ms. Strawn.
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
Ms. Hentz. Did we lose Michelle?
I'm sorry.
Oh, there you are.
Did I just go down, or did all of you?
I think you went down.
I'm so sorry. I had to move to a different room. I don't know what happened. Okay. That's not good on my last meeting. Oh.
And Ms. Alexander.
Aye.
Motion carries for approval of the minutes 5-0, I do believe. Unfinished business, I&I program implementation. I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. By this time, we all realize that this is not a new subject for City Council. We are fully aware that the city's sanitary sewer system has significant inadequacies due to decades-long lack of attention and inadequate funding for repairs and updates. While in some cases, we will need to replace entire sections of the system to increase capacity in the lines. In many cases, the greatest challenge is limiting the impact from reduced capacity due to I&I. Therefore, as previously outlined during our staff briefings with review and discussion by the City Council at several work sessions, staff bring forth this matter and request to City Council. While we think of ourselves now as just entering winter, beginning the budgeting process and continuing our struggles with COVID, City staff is actively planning our work schedule for the approaching spring and summer. As outlined in previous briefings and discussions, a number of areas of the city contribute excessive amounts of I&I to our sanitary system through rainwater and groundwater entering the system. The causes of this are many. In a number of cases, we continue to rely on decades-old pipes in the ground, some over 100 years old. These pipes performed well over the decades, but they now cannot function as intended, and they permit this I&I to enter our system. We also have pipes that have collapsed or suffer from root intrusions in joints and broken areas of the pipe. This I&I from several sources creates a loss of capacity in several areas of the community. It further increases costs for treatment of waste by the Maury Service Authority and limits our efforts to redevelop and develop certain areas of the community. To mitigate this I&I and restore the sanitary system to higher levels of performance, staff has formulated a multi-pronged approach to overcome the I&I problem. The facets of this recommended program include the following: slip lining existing solid lines with PVC piping. The Director of Public Works has evaluated cost and performance of this activity and put in place a relationship with a company specializing in this activity. Upon testing and review of specific segments of the system, DPW will then notify this company to go in and slip line sections which are solid and where capacity can be restored by this activity. A further way of dealing with this issue is in-house line replacement. In a number of cases, it has been and will continue to be found that entire stretches of lines need to be replaced. When this work is nearer to the surface and of a simple configuration, DPW crews will replace these lines in-house. In these cases, DPW staff has the skill and tools to take on these activities successfully. This work can and will only be done when it does not detract from other work or services that the DPW performs. Excuse me. Contract line replacement. In cases where lines are deeper in the ground or when obstacles in the area or line configuration creates a complex work and specialized equipment is needed, we will contract this out. In these cases, the work, not getting my page to move, there we go. Work will be bid through our regular process and awarded to the contractor who is successful in meeting our criteria. Of course, all this work will be conducted through city policy and procurement procedures. While this is significant and multi-year commitment on the part of the city, it is highly recommended that this plan be pursued. The purpose for this multi-year approach and authorization is to plan to repair and restore a segment of the system and then support work on a nearby segment of the system to be more effectively deal with the total I&I in the area in question. Individual segments of lines could be repaired or restored and create good results on a piece-by-piece basis. However, the impacts of a planned and fully thought out approach will deliver more effective results as work continues over a period of several years. Nonetheless, should the city face unseen challenges in the near term, and this program must be halted due to the unseen circumstances, council can halt the program anytime. Should this become necessary, all uncommitted funds will return to the general fund, be utilized as required to deal with this new need. City staff is present now to answer any questions that you have, and I would recommend that City Council authorize a 4-year program for I&I remediation using the funds from the recent bond refinancing, which total $93,626 in fiscal year 21, $525,012 in fiscal year 22, along with the current funds in the I&I remediation count, which are $340,569. And as I indicated earlier, Jeff Martone, Director of Public Works, is here with us, as well as Jake Adams from the Finance Department to answer any questions that the City Council may have.
Thank you, Jim. And members of council have any questions?
This Leslie, I have two, I guess. We're going to you propose that we take $340,000 out of the I&I remediation account. does that wipe out that account or will there still be remaining funds?
Well, if we use those over time, yes, it will wipe it out, but that's what it's there for. And with the additional funds provided from the insurance program, they would actually be put into the INI account
Okay.
or in a similar account available for that INI effort.
Meaning some of the funds would be replenished during our regular budget, being our regular budget process. I mean, how, essentially.
Some of those could be replenished, yes. And Jake, how would those be replenished?
So essentially, basically with this program, if we're cutting down on I&I over time, over the next 3 to 4 fiscal years, we're hoping to see a reduction in excessive rainwater that's infiltrating our sewer system and leading to increased treatment costs at the MSA. So we will see a benefit in reduced sewage treatment costs from this program. I think that's the greatest benefit that we'll see from implementing these additional funds.
That's certainly true, Jake, but how would the actual fund that is available for INI work be replenished, I think was the question.
So the funds that are available currently for INI remediation were funds that were carried over from the previous fiscal year. So these funds that have been in this account over a number of years and have been carried forward to FY21. So simply what we're doing through this process is adding to that savings from bond refinancing. So we're adding to this account for what we can expend on remediation, and 93,000 of that will be experienced during FY21, and again 525,000 will be for next fiscal year. What's experienced on savings from the bond refinancing.
Jake and Jim, it's safe to say, in essence, for future I&I funding, City Council will need to budget or work it into the utility fund to have additional money for I&I. But for the next 4 years, $959,207 is going to be allocated over the next 4 years for I&I improvement. Part of that is it's the right thing to do and to take care of our infrastructure, but part of it also arguably is economic development so that we can work with developing some of the properties in town. But the reality is, with all due respect to your earlier comments, Jake, we're not going to save a dime on treatment costs, because if we send more, the costs are somewhat fixed out at the treatment plant. The rates are just going to go up and we're going to end up paying about the same. It's what we do to our water customers per se. Just stating the obvious, not being argumentative. And but all part and parcel, this is the right thing to do for our citizens. Leslie?
Yeah, I had a second question. I think this plan is great, and you're right. It is something we need to do, both to provide valuable services to our citizens and for economic development. I was just wondering, Jeff, from a staffing standpoint, this is a lot of work that Public Works has taken on, and I thank them for taking the lead. And how are we staffing wise? I know, you were at one point the engineer for Public Works, and I don't think we ever backfilled that position.
Well, to be honest, when we looked at the I&I efforts that we're intending to pursue in the next couple of years, is previously presented to council, we're probably looking at the Providence area. And what we plan to do in-house, we've already specified when we were talking about the Sarah's Run interceptor improvements. What we saw from smoke testing, we have like 30-something point repairs to do, maybe 1,000 feet to replace it. I believe it's 2 or 3 Ross Road. We intended to kick that off this week, but weather kind of got in the way, so we might defer till after the new year. But what we intend to do house is, maybe a $30,000 to $40,000 endeavor. Looking ahead to bigger efforts in the Providence Hill area, which is both the Sarah's Run shed and the Woods Creek Interceptor shed. I kind of paired analysis by two methodologies. One, if we just bid it out the whole area, and then one, if we used our current IDIQ contract, which council is aware we procured this fiscal year. If we used our IDIQ contract with Amliner to do all of Providence Hill area and the Witch Creek Interceptor itself, primarily under the golf course, it's probably about 2.4 million. If we bid it out in the open market, we're probably looking at 3.4 million. I would bring to council's attention that our IDIQ contract with Amliner specifically for lining. Now, there's certain things that are not covered in that contract. That would be like 4-inch lateral replacement and other things. So it's probably going to be a blend between the two estimates. So I would say we probably go between 2.4 to maybe 3 million to do all of Providence Hill proper and including the Witch Creek Interceptor through the golf course. That's what we're looking at. And I would think that we're going to outsource that and not do that, of course, with public works staff because we don't have slip lining capabilities.
You know, as the mayor mentioned, it's we have to do this. It's economic development, it's infrastructure, and I sometimes I like to remind myself, and I say it out loud. I mean, all of us have prioritized as council members infrastructure, and we all always prioritize economic development. And this is a really unfun project, but it brings both of those items together. And it just has to be done. 10 years from now, a city council will thank us for doing this. And it certainly doesn't grab the headlines for infrastructure or economic development, but it's the dirty work and we have to do it. Jeff, when we do something in-house, and if we budget these funds for this I&I work, and if we do something in-house, we do essentially cover our in-house costs with these funds, or do we not? See what I'm saying? I mean, if you pull a crew of employees and they work on this and they use your machines, or are we charging ourselves and therefore saving some money in your regular budget?
That is correct, David.
Okay.
We would charge to the I&I account, and we would charge basically our labor hours and materials. We don't cost ourselves equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Members of council have any other questions?
I've got one, just a clarification. Jake, I think you covered this already, but I want to make sure I understand it. So if we make some headway with I&I through this program, then would it be true that the funds would accrue faster in the I&I remediation account? Like if we solve some of those problems, is it more likely to have funds flowing to that account in future years?
It's possible if we set it up that way, if we see savings on our wastewater treatment from fees to the MSA, that we could take some of those funds and put them back into the I&I remediation account. But at this stage, essentially what we're looking at this stage is to put funds into this account over a 4-year period to allow projects for I&I remediation and essentially allow for development of properties and to get I&I under control. I think down the road, that's another discussion of what funds will we pull back from savings in I&I to put back into this account for future projects. I think that's a different discussion somewhat, but I think at this point, we're just trying to address I&I concerns that are here in the present.
Okay, thank you.
So essentially, Jake, I'm kind of to follow up on like Dennis's question. I mean, the way that we have built up these funds is by the budgeting process. I mean, we have been putting, and I went back and I've looked at the budgets from 2013, 14, 15. And of course, at that time, we were the fiscal agent for the MSA, but we were putting money in the budget for I&I. So that's how these funds they were built up and so on. And if we were to want to replenish the funds, the only way they're replenished is essentially that we put the money into an account. That's the only way. So, and that might be a good practice. I mean, to do that eventually. So, but
Yes, that's exactly right, David. And that's the process, just over years, just setting aside additional funds towards I&I remediation. And I think that will be the practice moving forward.
good. Thank you.
David, as your point earlier, utilities are not sexy. And having the audacity to have a sinking fund for replacement of decaying or aging infrastructure is something that notoriously wasn't done. But Jeff, jumping back for just a second, I'm not sure if I missed something exactly when you were talking about the circumstance with the Providence Hill project and 2.4 to $3+ million. How would that project be funded? Obviously, this is looking at $1 million, just shy of it for I&I.
I guess my point, Mr. Mayor, is that we would just basically do $1 million worth of work in that area.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, to ultimately do it all, including the Woods Creek Interceptor under the golf course, would be somewhere between 2.4 and 3 million. But we put a pretty good dent in it. And I guess the question we'd have to answer is the Providence Hill area is kind of split between sheds. One half kind of goes to the Woods Creek Interceptor, and of course the other half goes to Sarah's Run. What are we going to prioritize? We do have intelligence from 2017 tri-state video of the portion that goes into the Woods Creek Interceptor, because that was kind of the topic of the day at that time. We do not have video of the portion that goes into the Sarah's Run, but seeing it's all built about the same time and platted at the same time, I would think it's all relatively the same degree of liability, to be honest.
Yeah, never know until you get into it, but that's the best assessment that we have. So thank you for that. And the idea with the 959,000 that we're looking to allocate over the next 4 years would in fact should reduce our I&I and increase our capacity, which is our ultimate goal. Very good. Members of council have any other questions for staff or engineer Jeff? Hearing none, I would ask for your consideration of this recommendation.
I move that City Council authorize a 4-year program for I&I remediation using the funds from the recent bond refinancing of $93,626 in fiscal year 21, $525,000 in 12 and fiscal year 22, along with the current funds in the I&I remediation account of $340,569.
Second.
Dennis with the motion, Marilyn with the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I would ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Ayers?
Aye.
Ms. Alexander?
Aye.
Ms. Hentz?
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler?
Aye.
Ms. Strong?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Thank you all very much. And again, it's not sexy, but I think this is something that we've been working towards for many, many years in the city, and I look forward to having staff identify these and fix them, if you will, and improve them before they fail, because we certainly have had a couple of failures that that emergency repair is not too much fun. Next item on the agenda, reports and commissions. Blue Ridge Resource Authority did not meet in December, but it's continuing to take trash and make the world a better place, and offer no report beyond that. Main Street Lexington.
Yes, we met Tuesday, December 8th, and we had the second allocation of CARES funds that Main Street was managing those grants. On the second round, we had 44 businesses applied for funding and 44 businesses received funding. So again, thank you to council and the IDA and Main Street for working together to help our businesses out. The Jingle Bell Run is a virtual run this year, and it's going all month long, so you can still sign up. It's not too late. And if you sign up, you are eligible for a weekly raffle, so there's some incentive there. And the your fee goes, a portion of it will go to the Walker Entrepreneurship Program to help fund that. And Main Street and Tourism are working together to plan some events and promotions to keep activity in the community going throughout the winter months. And that's all I have.
For those looking to sign up, just the Main Street website or Facebook page to enter the Jingle Bell Run.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah.
And if you need running shoes, Lexington Running Shop's open and ready to get you fitted. Thank you, Leslie. Planning Commission, Ms. Strong.
We met last Thursday and we discussed the catalyst projects for the comprehensive plan that's the city manager and staff put together some prioritize some projects that we had discussed, and Planning Commission was thankful and agreed with the prioritization that the city manager and staff put together. And so hopefully we'll move forward with those projects over the next 18 months to get the comprehensive plan kicked off. We talked about the Green Infrastructure Working Group. We put together a scope of work for that group, and we'll be naming some people to that committee. And then we worked on our annual zoning ordinance amendments. And also Arnie reported, and Frank, you may have some more detail on this, that the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission is working on a Route 11 small area plan, and it'll run from Greenhouse Road to Waffle House, and it's to improve the walkability in that area, which was very exciting news. And that's all I have, unless you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, thank you. There's not too many details yet, but certainly a promising plan, especially for, I remember from Greenhouse to Waffle House, lots of people that do need to make use of that road, and it's very unsafe right now. So look forward to the outcome of that, and that will certainly be useful as well as VMI's parking lot back behind or just off of Greenhouse Road becomes more prevalent. That I'm not sure exactly when it's coming online, but that connectivity will be important as well. Dangerous along Route 11 where there's not sidewalks available.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Leslie? Hearing none, regional tourism, Mr. Ayers.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Tourism Board had to postpone its December 16th meeting due to weather, and we won't meet again until January. But I did want to mention a few holiday activities around the region that Lexington residents might want to consider. First, the Carriage House is conducting horse-drawn carriage evening tours, which is a unique way to enjoy the local Christmas lights and decorations in Lexington's historic district. Tours are being scheduled tomorrow evening and Saturday from 5:45 to 8:45. And we'll start at the Carriage House on 130 South Randolph Street. And for more information or to make reservations, you can visit lexcarriage.com. Second, there's Glenmorey Park's Christmas lights display in Buena Vista, which runs through January 2nd, each night from 5 to 10 p.m. And this weekend, you can enjoy the luminary lights from 5 to 8 p.m. at Natural Bridge State Park. Pedestrians can take a luminary path walk along the trail and then enjoy a roaring fire and holiday treats at the Cedar Creek Cafe at Natural Bridge State Park. And finally, on Saturday, December 20th, from 7 to 9:30, Hulse Drive-In will feature the American Shakespeare Center's film production of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and tickets are $25 per car. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Dennis. Any questions? Despite COVID, social distance and all these good things, but lots of fun things for the family to do and experience and get in the Christmas spirit. Rockbridge Area Department of Social Services, Ms. Hentz.
Yes, the RADS board did not meet yesterday due to a staff member testing positive. Staff will now be teleworking until December 28th. And Dinah and the supervisors department had earlier this week to making that transition to teleworking in order to have a smooth transition for the agency's, normal business to continue as usual. The board's next meeting is scheduled for January 13th. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Hearing none. Raro, Mr. Ziegler.
No report.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Alexander, Threshold.
And no report. We don't have any work ongoing right now because of COVID and because of the weather. So we decided that there was no need to meet because there was nothing to discuss.
Very good. Well, we look forward to lots of progress with Threshold in 2021. Lots of good opportunities.
Absolutely. We're hoping.
Good. Under my report, I don't have any appointments for your consideration. We have some applications, but I just hadn't finished the process to bring their names forward. So my apologies to those applicants. And two things just primarily for information. One, the city manager and I had the opportunity to meet with General Wenz at BMI and officially welcome him to Lexington. That meeting was on Tuesday morning, and General Wenz was very candid, very straightforward of the work that he's prepared to do, and excited to be in Lexington and returning to Lexington after graduating from BMI in 1985. We talked about the relationship with the city and the collaboration with things going on, including the natatorium, which will begin and be about a 2-year construction. And just excited to have a chance to officially welcome him and talk about the core and the institute, the pending investigation, and the work that he's going to be doing and leading the institute forward. So very great enthusiasm, and he acknowledged that Stonewall Jackson statue had been removed and relocated, and just seems to be a terrific person all in all, and look forward to working with him. One of the points of the conversation was talking about their process in dealing with COVID for the return of cadets on January 12th. And as we were talking, it seemed as though things were changing coming out of the governor's office and protocols. And I referenced that just from the standpoint of all of us needing to continue to be very diligent and patient as things change with this virus and the spread, the recent distribution of vaccinations. It's hard to keep track because the best of plans need to be modified and changed as we go along. And very impressed with the role that General Wenz is playing and the team that he has with Dallas Clark, Dale Brown, and Jay Williams administering those and working to keep the BMI post a safe place for the cadets as well as for our community, and the acknowledgement that many of the employees at BMI are citizens of ours. I was unable to join today, but I know the Chamber was hosting a Ready Grant forum today and getting some good ideas for economic development. And I know Tracy will update us at some point in the not too distant future on that. And lastly, I understand if everything goes as planned, the State of the Community Breakfast will be at virtual and will be held on January 7th. At 8 o'clock. So mark your calendars. You'll have to bring your own breakfast this year, I guess. And everything's new as COVID continues. And anything I need to be doing for council, let me know. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Want to delve into COVID a little bit, and I'm sorry to report that we do have a COVID case now in the police department. The officer is doing well, and he has no significant symptoms. He will be quarantined until after Christmas. And this is now our second case. You may remember we had a firefighter who also tested positive about a month ago, who also has not returned to work. On a larger scale, we just learned that Heritage Hall has 25 confirmed cases between patients and staff. All have been reported to have few or minor symptoms. And Heritage Hall, of course, will be accepting no new admissions. Staffing levels, fortunately, are adequate, and they do have all the supplies they need to deal with the outbreak. On a more positive note over there, their staff and patients are scheduled to receive their vaccinations on January 5th and January 26th. So good news for them. And I suspect that means many other such facilities and locations in the community will also be getting their vaccinations soon. I want to switch to some good news, of course. Our health insurance rates are going to go down this year by 4% beginning the fiscal year. That is because Local Choice was able to put in place some savings, and our experience has not been, I just say ours, but all those covered by Local Choice has not been as bad as forecast, so the rates can actually go down for a change. Police chief search, you might recall, of course, we're searching for a new police chief. The applications for that job closed December 15th, and we had a good response to that. We had between 15 and 20 very qualified candidates, and we're very excited about going through the next step of the process. That will begin very soon, probably carry through the first of the year. We're working with the Virginia Police Association, Chiefs of Police Association, and they'll be contacting the individuals in question, all of them who have applied, looking at their credentials, and then whittling that group down to a sort of final candidates list who will then be vetted and presented for interviews in the weeks thereafter. So we've got 2 or 3 steps yet to go through before we get down to those final interviews. Also, a bit of good news in the fire department. Firefighter and medic Jared Hill has recently been promoted to lieutenant. So congratulations to Jared. The fire department staff met with Carilion Hospital recently, and they were briefed and then discussed the new visitation policies and related COVID changes at the hospital. And this will allow the department to better update their procedures accordingly so that they can interact with the hospital in an appropriate fashion. The fire department also hosted a preventive maintenance session for several local public safety entities, including the police department. And this is to be sure all communication equipment is fully functional. I do want to also mention that I continue to receive thank yous for City Council for the CARES awards that the businesses locally have received. I think it's heartwarming to note that everyone was happy to receive the financial assistance, but many of the businesses also noted that they were just thankful to be appreciated and that the City Council cared enough to reach out to them and try and assist them when they're dealing with these difficult times. And they really indicated they were so pleased to be doing business here in this community that cares so much and supports its businesses. So those thank yous were really sincere and really meaningful. I will second the comments of the mayor. The meeting we had at VMI was a great meeting, and General Winds really, I think, struck a great chord. Of course, the chair of the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Lyons, and the county administrator, Spencer Suter, also joined us. And so we talked about the whole value of VMI to the community and how the community supported VMI. So it was very positive, as the mayor mentioned. I think most of you may have seen recently that the Board of Supervisors has discussed a cigarette tax and the possibility of enacting that. And locally, the 3 communities, Univista, Rockbridge County, and Lexington, we've been talking about whether or not we could put in place a cigarette tax. It seems to be a very positive step for us to take from a standpoint of some additional revenues. The only way we would probably move forward with that to make it successful and to make it effective is that if all 3 communities moved in the same direction at the same time. So collectively, as the administrators and managers here in the community, I believe we'll be bringing that forth so that all entities, the 2 cities in the county, would be putting in place a program July 1st, probably at the same rates. And I think we've all talked about 20 or 30 cents a pack. That seems to be prevalent up and down the Shenandoah Valley, over into Covington and Clifton Forge for the most part. And we'd probably all administer that program within our own staff. I've talked to the Commissioner of Revenue, Karen Roundy, and she said she could do that for the city. So this is something I'll be bringing forward as we build into some budget scenarios for council to review, and also then ask council to, at some point in time, consider this and hopefully approve it if we can all jurisdictions can move forward at the same time. So, and that is my report.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for the city manager?
Hey, Jim, just one question about the potential cigarette tax. Is there any way to sort of forecast what sort of revenue that would mean for the city? I mean, I don't know if we have any data on how many packs of cigarettes are sold in Lexington, but maybe we do.
No, we really don't, or have been unable to find any data of that nature. Jake has looked at that. It's not reported that way throughout the state and the agencies of the state that may track cigarette sales. You know, what we have done is look at similar sized communities. And again, they are cities or towns because counties cannot yet levy this tax, and look at what sales have been like in those communities. But there are a lot of variables there. I mean, who knows the number of smokers in a particular area? Who knows how far people travel to buy their cigarettes in a certain area? But we're looking at, I think, Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking at 6 figures at least, are we not, Jake?
Yeah, that's correct, Jim. We looking at the data that I was able to find from other towns and cities in Virginia. We really looked at a few that were kind of comparable to Lexington, A, in population, and B, just in proximity to the I-81 corridor. And I would just, in just a ballpark figure, I would think we're at least looking at about $200,000 in revenue if we were to implement a $40 cent per pack tax. Of course, that amount is flexible, whatever we decide to do over the course of time. But, you know, that's what we're looking at, is at least 6-figure amount.
If that tax is levied by the county, am I correct that any tax that they levy comes into play with the revenue sharing agreement?
That's correct. Yes, that is correct. That's part of the revenue sharing agreement, and they would be responsible for collecting that tax and providing a percentage of that to the city.
Any other questions for the city manager? Jake, one for you, or perhaps Jim. With that tax, do we have any specific planned use for that revenue, or that just goes straight to general?
I have not found any use that we need to focus on. I was anticipating it would go just to the general fund. Of course, council could designate a use for it, but I do not have a specific use identified at this time.
Very good. Excellent. No other questions for the city manager, city attorney? Jared.
Yes, thank you. Just briefly, no update on the water tower case. So that is still unfortunately up in the air, and trying to move that along as much as we can. Though we have been in touch with the developer and they've been kept apprised and sort of, I think, broadly speaking, understands that these things take time. So hopefully we'll come to some sort of resolution soon on that. The only other issue I have is we're close to the 60-day deadline for reconfirming the emergency ordinance, allowing us to hold the electronic meetings. So we have to pass the ordinance every 6, we have to certify it or reconfirm it every 60 days. And tonight is that 60 days. So I would just ask for a motion from council to reconfirm the October 1st, 2020 approval of the resolution and ordinance provided at that time to declare an emergency to exist and provide for holding electronic meetings. And that would be the end of my report.
Before council considers that, any questions for Jared? Very good. To ask for council's consideration on reconfirming.
I make a motion to reconfirm the October 1st, 2020 approval of the resolution and ordinance provided at that time to declare an emergency to exist and provide for holding electronic meetings.
Second.
David with the motion and Leslie with the second. Thank you very much. I'd ask for a roll call vote or any discussion. Hearing none, a roll call vote. Mr. Ayers?
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler?
Aye.
Ms. Strawn?
Aye.
Ms. Hentz?
Aye.
Ms. Alexander?
Aye.
And did Mr. Smith join us? Oh, okay.
He's trying.
There he is. Welcome, Chuck.
Good to be here. Sorry for being late.
No problem. There's a motion and second on the floor for approval to reconfirm our October 1st, 2020 declaration.
Aye.
And motion carries unanimously. Thank you all very much. New business, Rockbridge Area Department of Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you've all seen the request from the Rockbridge Area Department of Social Services in the packet, and they are asking that the cities of Lexington, Buena Vista, and Rockbridge County, who support the agency, assist in evaluating options for a new facility. And while this request may seem a bit undefined or overly broad, it can be interpreted through some of the prior discussions to include several activities. DSS has indicated that the site may be sought for new construction. An existing building could be modified and leased, that our local governments could build such a new facility, or that our local governments could assist with the financing of any of these scenarios. Most of these options have been discussed during monthly mayors and chairs meetings recently. And while there is no commitment in place to pursue any options or an involvement at any level, cooperative actions may create efficiencies or better results for our communities. Perhaps the greatest opportunities are those that can reduce costs to all. At this time, no option should be seen as most favored, and it may be that no action or involvement by our local partners will result from this effort. However, it behooves all the partners supporting the Department of Social Services to carefully look at the options available, and if options receive a favorable review, an appropriate recommendation will be forthcoming to all partners for consideration and approval. So I would recommend that City Council does indicate the desire to work with our regional partners of Buena Vista and Rockbridge County, as well as the DSS, to consider possible means by which our combined local governments can effectively assist in locating, constructing, or financing a new facility for the DSS.
Thank you, Jim. Michelle, anything that you want to add as our representative?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to, I think there were some questions. I just want to clarify a few things that Dinah had, I think Jim and some of the supervisor, board of supervisors, and maybe council also has the same questions. Just to say that Baskerville, one of the questions raised was, are there contractual obligations completed? And Baskerville, the architectural firm, has completed the contractual obligations, and the final invoice has been paid. And our board attorney, Reed Broughton, has reviewed the contract and concurs. And in terms of the state reimbursement, because the cost share is always, confusing, or I think we have to just always remind the localities how that works. So for facility costs versus the locality share, the state social services provides a base budget in May, and the local agency does not submit a budget specifically for the facility to the state. The rent or the lease, whether publicly owned or locality owned facility, is considered administrative cost through the local department, which is reimbursed at 84.5%. And if local agency depletes the base budget prior to May, then the pass-through funds are used. And these funds then are reimbursed at around 32%. So I just wanted to clarify how that reimbursement happens or occurs. And then for a locality owned facility, there would have to be a memorandum of understanding, and the rent has to be a reasonable amount based on size and need of the local agency. And then the cost for each locality varies. Of course, Rockbridge County would be the most, because it's based mainly on the census of the services provided in each locality. So I don't know if anyone else had.
Leslie, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, so if it is a locally owned, if if the localities own the building, there still is reimbursement at 84%,
Yeah.
whatever, from the state.
Yes. Yeah, they give us a base budget, so, obviously we have to work within the budget, but, yeah, it's, it's not like, it's definitely based on this formula from the state, so.
Other questions?
I just want to make it,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Marilyn.
we're reimbursed, all the localities are reimbursed 84%. Is that for a length of time or is that in perpetuity?
I think it's been about that for a while. I think when you go through, if you spend the funds and you have to go to pass through, that reimbursement amount may vary, but Dinah said about 32%. But I could ask her about that 84.5%, but that's how it's been as long as I've been on the board, so.
If I may, I don't believe that we can say it could go forward into perpetuity because I think it's a matter of state budget policy. That is the policy in place today. The state
Right.
could change it at some time.
It's true. Mhm.
But basically, would they be leasing the building from the 3 localities, or we're just
Right.
taking care of it?
We're not going to own it. The agency's not going to own the building. So we're going to be in a rental or lease situation. And we would lease it from the localities.
Department of
Paid for, once the construction is paid for, if that's what we end up doing,
Mhm.
then once it's paid for, then it's going to be up to the localities to determine if we change the rate of how much we expect to receive to take care of the building, upkeep, that kind of thing.
Right.
I would suspect, as Councilmember Hens said, we would continue to charge rent at a reasonable rate because in any case, the department would have to have a facility which they would pay on a monthly or annual basis a reasonable amount for. And that money could be plowed back into maintenance, as you said, Councilmember Alexander.
Just to clarify one thing, and I understand that no decisions have been made or no predisposition towards one solution over another, but if we did move down the path of one of the localities building a facility for DSS, it's unlikely to be in Lexington. It would be in Rockbridge County or Buena Vista, right?
From my
Yeah.
from my perspective, it has not been determined. There have, and Michelle knows this as well, there were sites in Lexington that were identified. There were sites in the county that were identified. Just recently, Buena Vista has forwarded a site they believe could be very advantageous. So I think it's open to where it could be. I yield to Councilmember Hens if there's something different that needs to be added.
I think that's correct. If we were to actually build a facility, there aren't many options in the city. I mean, we did look at that one behind the Sheets, but that's currently owned property from Jay Melvin. So I don't know how that would work, but unless the city entered into an agreement with them. But I don't really see any really lots, where you're going to actually build a facility.
Right.
That was the only lot in Lexington that was identified.
Instead of going back to the proverbial drawing board, obviously this has been going on for several years now, and Department of Social Services has determined they need a new space. In the first iteration of finding a new space, didn't go well, and the municipality said, please embark with someone. They settled on, after an RFP, with Baskerville to help them assess what they need and what is available in the community, perhaps to purchase or to serve as the new location. Billy Fitzgerald came on the board as a representative from Buena Vista and said, why don't the 3 municipalities buy a piece of land and build a building? We can do it much cheaper and we'll still have that building 50 years from now. And my concern is what we're discussing tonight is to say it's okay for that board, the DSS board, to explore that option because it's perceived they didn't consider that an option when they were looking before. It doesn't make any of the private purchases that they've been thinking about throwing them out, the bath out with the baby water, and this is the path forward, because it's not our role to tell Department of Social Services what to do, but ultimately when they decide what they want to do, we all have to work in collaboration to get them in their new home. So the piece tonight is really endorsing and directing the city manager to continue to work with Department of Social Services as they seek their new home and make sure that it's an appropriate, cost-effective, either private hands or something built and owned by the municipalities. Those are the options that are on the table where no decisions have been made. And I've been very adamant that I'm not so sure that we need another facility owned by the city, one of the cities or the county going forward. To me, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because we're not property management people, we're government people. And I've shared that with a few different people, and I feel important to get that off my chest. But whatever the Department of Social Services determines in collaboration with the city managers and the county administrator and bring back, I know will be a responsible and thoughtful proposition for us to consider and support. And with that diatribe, if you have other questions, I'm glad to entertain them. If not, I would ask for your consideration of city manager's recommendation.
I move to approve the city manager's recommendation to work with the Department of Social Services in collaboration on this new facility or leased facility.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Hens, a second from Mr. Ayers. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Excuse me. Aye.
Ms. Strawn?
Aye.
Mr. Sigler?
Aye.
Mr. Ayers?
Aye.
Ms. Hens?
Aye.
Ms. Alexander?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all very much. I'm not aware of any additional business to come before us, and at this point would ask Ms. Alexander to read us into closed session. Before she does, I would observe that I don't anticipate council will be taking any action other than adjourning when we come out of our closed meeting.
Before we go in closed session, I just want to thank Michelle for everything
Oh, thanks.
that you've done. We're going to miss you. You've always brought a level head, a good business sense to city council, and the community is much better off for you having served on city council. So I just want to thank you.
I do have just a short statement to read. I know maybe past city council members had long statements. I promise you this is not too long, but I just wanted to really wanted to say that it's truly been an honor to serve as city council member for these past 4 years. And I think back to my first meeting in January 2017 and to where we are now. And I think just so much has happened and we've accomplished so much. And I'm very proud of that. I have tremendous respect for you all, my fellow city council members, Marilyn, Leslie, Chuck, David, Dennis, and and also Patrick Ramey during my first 2 years, and Frank, our mayor, for the incredible service and dedication to the city you all love. We come from various backgrounds and bring to the table fresh ideas and different perspectives. And I thought we worked very well together with integrity and honesty. And we put aside our self-interest, fully committed to making the policies and decisions based on what is best for this Lexington community. We've made some unpopular decisions, endured some marathon meetings, spent hours and hours on the phone with our constituents and replying to many, many emails. And we maybe lost a few friends. I think I have along the way. In the end, I have no regrets. And I want to thank our city manager, Jim, and the city staff for always being prepared when we ask questions or need more information to help us make good and informative decisions. Most council members in a 4-year term have had to work with only one city manager. Believe it or not, I feel like I was incredibly fortunate to have worked with Noah Simon, well, to work with 3. So Noah Simon in my first 2.5 years, Brenda Garten as interim manager for 6 months, and now with Jim, our current manager, for the past 13 months. All of them have brought their leadership, talents, and hard work, committed to the success of Lexington and to the quality of life for our residents. And some of the highlights for me, I mean, there are so many, but certainly, well, this, and most recently, renaming of the Stonewall Jackson Cemetery to Oak Grove Cemetery, the removal of Jordan's Point Dam, the strategic plan, the updated comprehensive plan, and the overhaul of the zoning and ordinances to include short-term rentals, and the attention to and completion of much needed infrastructure projects. As I depart, I see a city in very good financial position, even after a rough COVID-19 year. A more beautiful Lexington than 4 years ago. We've done a lot to enhance downtown. And like many communities across the country, willing to face some of its difficult history and past, and committed to doing the right thing and sensitive to the needs of community members that were discriminated, ignored, or shut out in the past. And we also have some great economic opportunities in the works, and that will bring much new needed sources of tax revenue. I have no doubt that you all, the city council members, the mayor and the staff and the city manager will tackle the city's challenges from aging infrastructure to affordable housing successfully. And I look forward to cheering you all on from the sidelines. Thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. Heartfelt thanks. And you identified yourself with a lot of the kind words that you said about your peers, being committed and kind and respectful and above and beyond dedicated to the position that is that of a public servant. So thank you for your service, and good health and good times. And any Thursday at 8 o'clock, you're missing us, come on back. We'd love to have you join us.
Yeah, I might just zoom on. No.
And you'll have to wait to speak during the public section. Just kidding. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to say that although we're going to miss, our collective efforts to do what's best for our city, sometimes we're going to lose sight of what's best for us individually. And I'm going to be very selfish when I say this. I don't want you to go, but I do understand why you feel like you need to do that, and you have to do what's best for you.
Yeah.
And, good luck to whatever your endeavors are in your civic duties. And if you have any questions about something to do, I have a couple of boards that could use you. So
yeah, I'm not going away. Thank you. Thank you.
Michelle, I just want to say it's been such a pleasure working with you these past 2 years. Your intelligence and your equanimity are really going to be missed around here. And I hope you're able to do something fun with your first and third Thursdays moving forward. So I hope it involves wine. So
I'll be reading some more fiction books, Yeah.
Very good. With that, Ms. Alexander, will you please read us into closed session where we can have some real fun?
I move that Lexington City Council will convene in a closed meeting in accordance with section 2.2-3711 subsection A, paragraph 3 of the Code of Virginia, a closed session for the purpose of discussing the disposition of real estate for a public purpose. Is there a second?
Second?
Roll call vote. Mr. Ayers,
Aye.
Ms. Hance,
Aye.
Mr. Sigler,
Aye.
Mr. Smith, Ms. Strawn,
Aye.
are you there, Chuck? And I vote aye.
Yes, sorry. I don't know what's going on here.
Thank you, Chuck. We're now going into closed session. Thank you.
Before we start, Janie, if